The rain fell hard that evening, tapping quickly on the windows and making the streets shine with wet reflections. Daniel hurried down the sidewalk, his heart beating fast. He was late. He needed to pick up his daughter, Lily, from the daycare before it closed. The thought of her waiting alone in the cold made him quicken his steps. The small yellow building of the daycare came into view, lights glowing warmly inside. Daniel pushed open the door and saw a group of children playing quietly. He scanned the room, looking for Lily. Then, his eyes caught sight of a little girl standing near the door. She wore a pink raincoat, just like Lily's. Without a second thought, Daniel walked over and gently took the child's hand. "Come on, Lily. Let's go home," he said softly. The girl was quiet, looking up at him, with big eyes. Daniel smiled and tried to start a small conversation, but she said nothing. He thought maybe she was just shy. Holding her hand, he stepped outside into the cold rain, eager to get home and warm her up. The walk was short, but Daniel kept glancing at the girl. Something felt different, but he couldn't put his finger on it. She did not look like Lily, the way he remembered. When they reached the apartment, Daniel helped her off with the raincoat. He looked closely at her face under the soft light of the hallway. His smile froze. This was not his daughter. The little girl looked scared and confused, but she didn't say a word. Daniel's heart began to race. How could he have made such a terrible mistake? His mind was full of questions. Where was Lily? How had he taken the wrong child? Panic started to rise inside him. He searched the girl's small backpack, hoping to find a clue. But there was no name tag, no note, nothing. It was just a plain bag with a few toys and a water bottle. Daniel pulled out his phone to call the daycare, but the line was dead. He tried again and again, but no one answered. The silence made him more anxious. He thought of going back to the daycare, but the rain was heavy, and night was falling fast. He didn't know what to do. The girl sat quietly on the couch, staring out the window. She seemed calm but afraid. Daniel tried to talk to her again, asking simple questions, but she only looked at him with sad eyes and shook her head. It was clear she didn't understand or didn't want to say anything. Just as Daniel was about to call his wife and explain the situation, there was a sudden knock on the door. His heart jumped. Who could it be at this hour, in the rain? He opened the door slowly. Standing there was a woman dressed all in black. Her eyes were wide and full of worry, but also something else, something hard to describe. She looked at the little girl in Daniel's arms and whispered, "You found her. After all this time." Daniel stared at the woman, confused and frightened. Who was she? And why did she say those words? The little girl looked up at the woman and gave a small nod, as if she knew her. Daniel's mind raced faster than ever. He knew this was only the beginning of something much bigger than a simple mistake. The woman stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Daniel wanted to ask her questions, but the look in her eyes stopped him. She held the girl's hand gently, and for a moment, the room felt quiet, filled only with the sound of rain outside and the beating of Daniel's fast heart. Daniel's thoughts spun in every direction. The little girl was not his daughter, yet she was here now, and this mysterious woman seemed to care for her deeply. Who was she hiding from? What danger was near? As the woman in black sat down and spoke softly, Daniel listened carefully. Her voice was calm but filled with fear. She told him that the child had been missing for a long time, that she was running from people who wanted to hurt her, that Daniel had no idea what he was involved in. Daniel looked at the child again. The silence in her eyes told stories no one else could hear. He realized that he must protect her. No matter what. But how? He didn't even know her name. The rain kept falling outside, and the clock ticked loudly in the quiet room. Daniel felt trapped in a strange story he never wanted to be part of. Yet, he couldn't let go of the child he accidentally took. His life was changing, and there was no turning back. The woman in black looked at Daniel and said quietly, "You found her. But now you must be ready, because once people know she is here, nothing will ever be the same." Daniel nodded slowly. He was scared, but he knew one thing for sure. He would not let anything happen to the child he now held. The mistake had changed everything, and this was only the beginning. Daniel sat silently in his small living room, the soft sound of rain tapping against the window still filling the space. The little girl sat quietly beside him, her hands folded neatly in her lap, eyes wide and watchful. The woman in black, Elena, as she finally told him, stood near the door, her face tense with worry and something deeper, something Daniel could not understand. Elena looked at Daniel with steady eyes. "You must listen carefully," she said, softly. "This child, she is not just a lost girl. There are people after her, dangerous people." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "If they find her, she won't be safe. Not anywhere." Daniel's heart pounded. "Why? Who are these people? And why me?" he asked. He felt trapped in a nightmare he didn't understand. Elena stepped closer, her voice steady but urgent. "The daycare mistake was not an accident. Someone wanted you to take her. You have to trust me." Daniel's mind spun. He wanted to call the police to get help, but Elena's dark eyes warned him against it. "Please don't call them," she begged. "These people are powerful. They can make the police look the other way." The little girl looked up at Daniel, her eyes shining with quiet fear. She finally spoke, her small voice clear but soft. "He has the red gloves." Daniel frowned, confused. "Who?" he asked. The girl did not answer again. Elena's face turned pale. "The man with red gloves. He is the one who took her once, before, and he will come back." Daniel swallowed hard. The rain outside seemed louder now, and shadows danced on the walls. He thought about his own daughter, Lily, safe somewhere he didn't know. The girl in front of him was not Lily, but she needed help. Suddenly, a shadow moved outside the window. Daniel froze. Elena noticed too. "They are watching us," she said quietly. Daniel felt a cold fear creeping inside him. The quiet evening had turned dangerous. He glanced at the girl again. She was clutching a small toy tightly, eyes still, full of questions but no answers. Elena reached into her bag and pulled out a folded photo. She handed it to Daniel. "This is her family," she said. "She was hidden to keep her safe, but now she's found again." Daniel looked at the photo carefully. It showed a woman and a man smiling with the little girl. His heart tightened. "Why didn't you come sooner?" he asked. "We tried," Elena said. "But the people after her are everywhere. They want her power." "Power?" Daniel asked, confused. Elena's eyes darkened. "She is special, different, and they want to control her." Daniel felt the weight of the moment. He had picked up the wrong child by mistake, but now he was part of something bigger, something he didn't understand but could not ignore. Just then, the doorbell rang loudly. Daniel's heart jumped. Elena's eyes met his. "They are here," she whispered. He moved toward the door slowly and peeked through the peephole. Outside stood a man in a black coat, his face hidden under a hood. Daniel could see his hands, gloves, bright red against the dark night. The man knocked again, louder this time. Daniel stepped back, fear gripping him. Elena grabbed his arm. "Don't open the door, not yet." Daniel nodded, his mind racing. Who was this man? What did he want? And how was Daniel, an ordinary father, caught in the middle of all this? The little girl whispered again. "He's close." The rain continued to fall, the night growing darker. Daniel knew he had to protect the girl no matter what. But as he looked at Elena and the silent child beside him, he realized their lives had changed forever. The danger was not just outside the door. It was inside, in every shadow and every secret they carried. The man with the red gloves was waiting, and Daniel had no choice but to face him. The rain kept falling hard outside, washing the streets in silver light. Inside the small apartment, Daniel's hands trembled as he looked at the door. The knock came again, sharp, demanding. The man with the red gloves was still there, waiting, a shadow hidden beneath his dark hood. Daniel's mind raced. He wasn't a fighter, not a hero, just a father who had made a terrible mistake. But now, he had a child to protect, a mystery to solve, and a danger to face. Elena stood beside him, calm but alert. "We can't let him in," she said quietly. "He's not here to talk. He's here to take the girl." Daniel swallowed his fear. "What do we do?" he asked. Elena looked at the little girl who sat silently on the couch, clutching her small toy tightly. "We have to hide her," Elena said. "But we don't have much time." Suddenly, the little girl stood up and walked to the door. Daniel's heart stopped. She opened the door just a crack. The man's cold eyes met hers. "You don't belong here," he said softly, his voice low but full of danger. The girl looked up at him, unafraid. "I'm not yours," she said. The man's expression tightened, but he said nothing more. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small, strange device. It beeped softly, glowing red. Daniel's mind didn't understand what it was, but he knew it was important. Elena stepped in front of the girl quickly. "Stay back," she warned. The man smiled coldly. "This isn't over," he said. Then he turned and disappeared into the rainy night. Daniel closed the door and locked it. His hands were shaking harder now. He looked at Elena. "What was that thing?" he asked. Elena shook her head. "I don't know, but it means they'll be back. And they'll bring more." Daniel looked at the little girl. "Do you know who that man was?" he asked gently. The girl nodded slowly. "He's from the group that took me before. They want me to come back." "But why?" Daniel asked. The girl looked at Elena, then back to Daniel. "Because I'm different," she said. "They want to control me, but I don't want to go." Elena sighed. "We have to move. We can't stay here. It's not safe." Daniel nodded, understanding the danger they were in. He looked around his small apartment, thinking of his own daughter, Lily, somewhere out there, safe for now. But here was a child who needed protection, a child who was caught in something bigger than any of them. As they packed a small bag with essentials, Daniel felt a strange mix of fear and determination. He had no idea what lay ahead, but he knew one thing clearly. He would do everything to keep this child safe. The rain continued to fall outside as they stepped into the dark night, ready to run, to hide, and to fight if they had to. The man with the red gloves was only the beginning, and Daniel's life was about to change forever. The city was cloaked in darkness, the rain blurring the streetlights into soft halos. Daniel moved quickly through the narrow alleys, holding the little girl's hand tightly. Elena followed close behind, her eyes scanning every shadow. Their breaths came out in quick clouds, mixing with the cold night air. The danger was real, and it was close. Daniel glanced at the girl. She was silent, her small hand gripping his, firmly, but her eyes showed fear and something else. A quiet strength. She looked up at him and whispered, "They won't stop until they have me." He swallowed hard. "We won't let that happen," he said, trying to sound braver than he felt. Elena led them to a small safe house she had prepared earlier. It was hidden behind a forgotten warehouse, a place no one would think to look. Inside, it was simple but warm. There were blankets, food, and a small bed just for the girl. Daniel sat down, exhausted but alert. Elena went to the window and peered out. "They're searching everywhere," she said. "We have little time." The girl stayed close to Daniel, her fingers tracing patterns on his arm. He wanted to ask her about her past, but the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he just held her, letting her feel safe for the first time in days. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed outside, metal scraping on concrete. Elena's eyes snapped to the door. "They found us," she said quickly. Daniel stood, blocking the girl behind him. The door rattled as someone tried to force it open. Panic rose in his chest, but he pushed it down. He had to be strong. Elena grabbed a small device from the table and pressed a button. A soft beep sounded, and then, from the walls, hidden panels slid open, revealing a narrow escape tunnel. "Now," Elena urged. Daniel took the girl's hand and ran toward the tunnel. The door burst open behind them. Shadows poured in, figures dressed in black moving fast. Daniel's heart hammered as they disappeared into the darkness below. The tunnel was cold and narrow. The only light came from small bulbs overhead. Daniel kept the girl close, whispering, "We're safe now. We're almost safe." After what felt like hours, they reached the end of the tunnel. Elena opened a heavy metal door that led to a quiet street far from the warehouse. They stopped, catching their breath. The rain had stopped, and the sky was starting to lighten with the first signs of dawn. Daniel looked at the girl. "Who are they? Why do they want you so badly?" The girl hesitated, then said, "I don't know everything, but they fear me. They say I have a power that can change everything." Elena nodded slowly. "We need to find someone who can help us, someone who knows more." Daniel felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He was just an ordinary man, caught in an impossible situation. But he knew one thing for sure. He wouldn't let the girl face this danger alone. As the sun began to rise, they walked into the city's waking streets, ready to face whatever came next. The chase was far from over, and the secrets they carried were only just beginning to unfold. The city was waking up, but Daniel felt no relief. Every sound seemed louder, every shadow more threatening. The little girl walked beside him, her small steps quick and sure, but her eyes still held that deep fear. Elena led the way to a quiet cafe where they were supposed to meet someone who might help, a woman named Maria, who knew about the girl's past. Inside the cafe, the air smelled of coffee and fresh bread. Maria waited in a corner booth, her face calm but serious. When Daniel and Elena arrived with the girl, Maria stood and smiled gently. "You've come far," she said softly. "But the danger is closer than ever." Daniel sat down, feeling tired but determined. "We need to understand. Who is this girl? Why does she have so many enemies?" Maria looked at the girl kindly. "She has a rare gift, something that very few people in this world possess. It's a power that can change minds and hearts. That is why some want to protect her, and others want to control her." The girl looked at Maria, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't want to be used." Maria nodded. "No one should be used. But you must learn to control your gift before they find you again." Daniel's mind raced. He had no idea how to help her with such a strange power. "How do we keep her safe?" Maria reached into her bag and pulled out an old, worn book. "This holds the knowledge you need. It will teach you how to protect her, and yourself." Elena took the book carefully. "We don't have much time. They are already searching the city." Suddenly, The cafe door slammed open. Two men, in dark suits, stepped inside, their eyes scanning the room. Daniel's heart skipped a beat. Maria whispered urgently, "They are here for her. We must move, now." Daniel grabbed the girl's hand. They slipped out the back door, the men following close behind. The chase was on again. As they ran, through narrow streets and quiet alleys, Daniel felt a fierce protectiveness rise inside him. He didn't understand everything, the power, the danger, the strange forces at work. But he knew this: he would never let anyone take her. The Nai city faded behind them as they disappeared into the shadows, chasing safety and answers in a world that suddenly felt much darker than before. The real fight was only beginning. The night had fallen again, but this time Daniel felt a strange calm in the chaos. They had escaped the city thanks to Maria's quick thinking, and now they were hiding in an old cabin deep in the woods. The little girl sat quietly by the window, watching the dark trees sway in the wind. Her eyes were tired but clearer than before. Daniel looked at her and asked softly, "Are you ready to learn how to control your power?" She nodded slowly. "I want to be strong. I don't want to be scared anymore." Maria opened the old book and began to explain. "Your gift is rare, but it is a part of you. You must trust yourself and learn to use it carefully. It can protect you and those you love." Days passed as the girl practiced with Maria's guidance. Daniel stayed close, offering encouragement and hope. The power inside her was growing, small sparks of light that danced when she concentrated. It was beautiful and frightening. One evening, as the wind whispered outside, Daniel heard footsteps near the cabin. His heart raced. He moved to the door and peeked out. Figures were approaching, armed and serious. "They found us," he whispered, stepping back. "We have to be ready." Elena appeared behind him, holding a small device. "This can block their tracking for a little while," she said, "but it won't last long." The little girl stood tall. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said. "I will protect us." When the door burst open, the strangers rushed inside, but the girl raised her hands, and a soft glow surrounded her. The attackers stopped in their tracks, confused and unable to move. Daniel watched, amazed and proud. The power he never understood was real, and it was strong. After the strangers fled, Maria smiled. "You did it. You are ready." Daniel looked at the girl, now no longer just a child lost in the storm, but a brave fighter with a future to shape. The journey was far from over, but together they had won their first battle. And in the quiet that followed, Daniel knew one thing for sure. He would never let her face the world alone again.